We don't yet know why it was coming down without the undercarriage down, whether that was because the crew had planned to do a low-level flyby to give people on the ground an opportunity to look at the aircraft after the bird strike, whether it was the pressure of workload that caused out of a mechanical problem. We don't know. It's just, all I can say is there were some unusual elements there.
We're speaking to John Strickland now, director of the aviation firm JLS Consultancy, about that crash, the airline crash in South Korea. Hi, John.
Hi.
So we've had quite a lot of suggestions today about what might or might not have happened and been the cause of that crash. Can you just tell us what officials are currently saying have happened?
Well, we're not getting any clear information. It's a very confusing accident. We've seen bits of footage, of course. We saw the aircraft where there was a puff of smoke, a bit of flame out of one of the engines, and we'd heard the crew had apparently reported a bird strike before the aircraft came to make its final approach. We've seen the terrible footage of the aircraft sliding down the runway and, of course, impacting with that object, that structure at the end of the runway, and then questions about the fact it didn't have its undercarriage down. But we don't get anything clear yet. There has to be a full accident investigation. That, as you can imagine, takes time. There's a structure around the world about how these things are done. There's a lead investigator, which in this case will be a representative from Korea, because that's where the accident happened. The airline will be represented. Boeing as a manufacturer of the aircraft, and the engine manufacturer also will be on that panel. So they take time to go through the evidence. Sadly, there are no survivors who can give evidence at this time. Whether the two who did survive can help later remains to be seen, but there'll be an effort to listen to voice recorders, check through data, even though I believe the flight data recorder itself is badly damaged. So anything else, unfortunately, at this moment is speculation.
And do we know what sort of time frame we're looking at for actually seeing, not perhaps the full probe as you speak of that, but just some initial information about what might have actually happened here?
I still think it would be running into months, because the aircraft, as we've seen, is so badly damaged. There's scarcely anything recognisable apart from parts of the tail. And as I mentioned, to get these data recorders out and indeed to listen to any transcripts with air traffic control, with the pilots operating the plane, it is going to take time. And the protocol is not to put out a drip feed of information, not least for the respect of those whose lives were lost and those anxious relations who themselves are wondering what caused this tragedy.
And even so, there are obviously concerns among some who might be looking at this and wanting to know exactly what had happened. I mean, there are working theories, aren't there, about what has happened? Can you just talk us through some of the potential suggestions?
Well, we just don't know. I mean, certainly the aircraft, as I mentioned, had a potential bird strike or a problem with the engine that caused that puff of smoke. It was due to land at that airport. It obviously did so. It seemingly has been reported that it changed the planned direction of landing on what was intended. But we don't yet know why it was coming down without the undercarriage down, whether that was because the crew had planned to do a low-level flyby to give people on the ground an opportunity to look at the aircraft after the bird strike, whether it was the pressure of workload that caused out of a mechanical problem. We don't know. It's just, all I can say is there were some unusual elements there. I would add that the Korean governmental authorities have asked for inspections of not only all Korean operators and indeed aircraft of this type, the Boeing 737-800, but this aircraft is in wide use throughout the world, and not least here in Europe. The 737-800 is the mainstay, for example, of Ryanair's fleet, many aircraft of the TUI holiday group, Norwegian Airlines, just to name three. It's had a very good reputation for in-service operation. This actual aircraft was a former Ryanair aircraft delivered to them about 15 years ago. So there's nothing unusual about the plane or its operating patterns that we can glean any ideas from at the moment.
And I mean, to that point, you're saying there's nothing that would have necessarily been the cause for any alarm before this. Some people now, understandably, perhaps apprehensive about flying. How do airlines manage that kind of nervousness?
I think that by stating the absolute preeminent focus on safety which exists in this industry. I mean, this airline, Jeju Air, has been in business around about 20 years. It is its first fatal accident. Airlines make no brash claims about their safety operation, but they are governed anyway by regulators around the world who have safety oversight. It doesn't always go 100% as planned, as we've seen by issues affecting other types of Boeings in the US, but there is a strict regime in place in terms of maintenance, in terms of pilot training. And if we look at the millions of flights and millions of flight hours that take place every year, fortunately, it's an industry with very, very low fatality statistics every year. Risks in daily life, from a car accident, even being knocked down by a car as a pedestrian or any other relatively normal day-to-day event, are far, far higher than being a fatality in an air accident.
Okay, well, thank you, John Strickland, director of the aviation firm JLS Consultancy. There, and there's plenty more on that story on the Times website.
저기 찍을 수 있어? 여기 좀 들어가야
경제에서 나왔네요. 밑에다가 별도 한 3개 치고 주의사항 정도인데? 주의사항 시신
저희도 옆에서